can't share that. Of course, I have to share on this. Share, copy link. We'll wait for some of the people to get back in. Oh, we got one person back in the chat. This should be a little bit easier than someone holding a tablet for the duration. Okay. Hello, Ms. Bishop. Welcome to the party. Three people back in the stream. Great. I feel comfortable getting back started. Of course, this video will be available for viewing later as well. So getting back into it, some of the questions we got were, actually, I want to take this opportunity real quick to show something that can not really confuses people, but is misunderstood a lot regarding indexing now that we have a better camera setup here. So let me swap. Let me see if I can, oh, there we go. Let's hit the swap button. I love how YouTube makes this way harder than it needs to be, I feel like. There we go. Over here back to the torn down Revolution again. We use this in our classes for showing, machine operation and showing people how to operate commercially. Wrench. There we go. Had to get a wrench here to operate the drive shaft. One thing a lot of people don't realize is when it comes to indexing, this, still trying to get the primer of work correctly on a Revolution. Might need to send it to you. Okay, well, I'll make a note here. Mr. Olson is right next to me. We'll have to reach out to you and discuss that about your vibratory motor. Want to get you back operating here quickly and see what we could do to help. Bishop. Okay. Yeah. All right, made a note here. So we have, and I can be happy to talk about primer systems here while we're on the live as well. Just real quick, when you're indexing, when we're talking about indexing on our machines, one of the ways we're able to get such a smooth index, and which helps avoid spilling powder and gives you more consistent results, is we have a roller bearing here which acts on the index assembly to give you that smooth index. So unless you've torn your machine apart, you might not be aware of this. We also have parts diagrams available. Feel free to look on our website for those, or you can send us email. Be happy to send them to you. Well, let me lower the drive shaft or the crank here a little bit. There we go. So we're back here. This is a loose assembly. This is what we keep for demonstration purposes. But I want you to watch something here. As the ram comes up, we have that bearing down below, acts on that cam surface, and indexes the shell plate. So if we're having indexing issues, we can isolate and identify the variables, what's going on. We have the cam bearing. It needs to come up, so we need to make sure we're making a complete stroke. We have our index assembly. We can visually look. When we take the priming system off, we can visually take a look and see the sides of the index assembly and see if there's a screw that's backed out or something like that. It's very rare that happens, but it is possible. Anything mechanical can break. And as it comes up, we have our index pawl, which needs to be able to move freely, snap back and forth, and should be adjusted correctly. Something that we don't talk about much is the relationship that the stops have with this. Now, I'm trying not to get too super duper technical in this video, just because it might not necessarily apply to everybody. But when you're talking about top stop adjustment, and for reference, that is this 1/4 inch Allen directly below your viewing window here on the back of the machine. Your top stop governs how far upward the stroke goes, how much rotation the crank has. So when we're talking about the top stop, we caution people about adjusting those without talking to us first, because what can happen is you can have overcam. So grab me a 1/4 inch Allen here. So if I can show here, I'm backing this top stop out. Also keep in mind that depending on the generation of your rev, we made a change last year to get rid of these jam nuts. This jam nut is present on the majority of machines we've shipped. Just make sure you remove that before you make any adjustments to make sure you're making an actual adjustment to the stop. So when I back this stop out, I am allowing the crank to go further. So you can see here, we're going up, and then we stop going up and we start camming over back down. We don't want cam over. We want at most to stop at that full upward, and I'll have the crank to stop there. If we don't do that, we can have really weird actuation of the priming system. We could have really weird actuation of our index. So going too far is bad. Not going far enough is also bad, because we want to make sure we're actuating our priming system and index correctly. So long story short, these bolts, leave them alone unless you talk to one of us, and we'll be happy to get you sorted the correct way to get you back loading. Another question on the Apex 10 shell plate index set screw. To which side do you turn the screw to move the plate forward or backward? Once again, you rotate the set screw clockwise to advance the plate more, and you loosen it counterclockwise to not advance the shell plate as much. Let me demonstrate that on our Revolution over here. So right now we have correct index. Let's see it index. Yep, the guide pin right here is not correcting the motion of the shell plate. Grab a 5/64, and I'm going to back that screw off. I'm going to loosen that screw. Half turn. I'm going to run the machine again. We can ignore that first cycle. You see that small shake of the shell plate right there? That is from loosening it. So I want to correct that. I want to advance the shell plate more during index. I'm going to tighten that screw a half turn. I'm just going to redo the adjustment I made. I can hit run, ignore that first cycle, and we're back to correct index. If I over tighten that screw, if I go a half turn too far, it retracts the shell plate that little bit, which is also incorrect index. I'm going to go a half turn back to correct that. Hit run to check, ignore that first cycle, and beautiful. Okie doke. So I hope that answered those questions, but I'd like to move on over, actually, no, I said I was going to talk about the priming system, didn't I? So let's go back here. I'm giving you all a grand tour of the showroom. So Diane, to hopefully address some of what you're talking about, we can talk about the adjustments we can make. And first of all, I'd like to show people who aren't aware of our priming system how it works. So I'm going to clear out some of these primers that are in the ramp. So you can see the primers are in this ramp here. I'm going to identify some things. Hope you can hear me over the sound of the... Yep, you're absolutely right, Diane. Vibratite VC3 or blue Loctite in some cases to secure that screw and keep it from moving on you during operation. So this is our primer ramp. This is our vibratory bowl, our primer bowl, vibratory motor, and our priming assembly, our primer disc system. So we are out of primers now. I'm going to put the speed back to 1,000. So when we turn this on, we can watch the operation of the primer bowl. And this, like I said earlier, is really the best part of the Revolution, in my opinion. I haven't had to fill primer tubes in like 3 years. It's really an amazing feeling when you realize you can throw those away. So I'm going to turn this on. We have a sensor here to detect if there's primers in the ramp. So I turn this on, and we get vibration, and they start going down the ramp. I just turned that off myself to give time to explain. To the left here, just a hair. So when we have issues with getting primers to feed, First off, we have a mechanical checks we can make. We want the space from here to here to have a little bit of an air gap. If we're touching the bowl to the ramp, it's going to clatter and not really vibrate very much to get that actuation. Next up, we have obviously the speed control on the control box back here, the rheostat. And the other adjustment we have is a 3/16 Allen bolt under the center of, I don't know if y'all can see where my hand's at, or where that blue is. It's right in the center of this guy. It goes up through the platform. And there's a nut in there, 3/16 nut, that we can adjust, tighten or loosen, to adjust the agitation. So the box back there controls the speed or amplitude or frequency. I can't remember which. And the agitation is adjusted in the 3/16. So if I tighten this bad boy, you all saw how it worked a minute ago. Same settings, we're barely moving primers around. I can adjust this nut and slowly adjust the agitation until it's moving primers the way I want it to. As long as it's keeping up, that's really all I'm really concerned about. So the way it works, though, is pretty similar. If you're familiar with the RF100 from Dylan, the bowl operates in the same way. It's kind of hard to make one. Gotcha. Yeah, if Diane, really, to answer that question, it probably has to do with that nut. Let us reach out and we'll talk about it. It might just we might want to try something with that adjustment nut if it's moving around on you too much. Might need some Vibratite or Loctite on that nut to keep it from adjusting on you. But more to follow on that, Diane. We don't want to leave you hanging here. So on the bowl, we have these cutouts, 2 and 3. These cutouts act to kick out primers that are not the way they should be. So right side, correctly oriented primer slides across. If we were to turn this primer upside down, you can show as we try to slide it across, it gets caught and gets kicked out. So when we're talking about the vibration, we want to vibrate to allow the primers to chase up the ramp. This block off here is just to kick the rollers off, the sideways guys. And then as these primers come around, properly oriented primers should slide across and be fed. Upside down primers should be kicked off. Can you show and explain how to set the swage rod to swage pistol cases on an Apex 10? Is the next one. Actually, yeah, that covers most of what I wanted to talk about with the primer collator system. But this guy allows you to load prime over and over again without having to touch primer tubes or anything like that. Moving on, talk about swaging. Swaging is probably the most misunderstood subject or aspect of progressive reloading. And the way I like to explain it is you're trying to add a chamfer. You're trying to make a primer insertion have the best possible chance of being successful. So I've gotten pictures before when we ask people who are having priming issues, I asked them to send me a picture of their swage setting. So this is a brand new Extreme piece of brass. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus. Brand new, got a rolled pocket, and this is one of our swage rods. So I shove this in here, and you can see it's almost bottomed out. It's almost all the way. This is not really swaging. The tip is inserted in the primer pocket, and it's checking for obstructions with our swage sense down here, potentially, but it's not really accomplishing much. Not until this shoulder, once again, get it to focus, the shoulder of this swage rod, that's chamfer, where it gets wider. We want that to engage with the primer pocket to switch, to push that metal, that military crimp or just a tight pocket, open it up more in order to swage adequately. So let's put this case here, and I'm going to do a single cycle. And we might be able to see it on the camera. I doubt it. But on the right, I just swaged. On the left is brand new. Yeah, it's basically impossible to tell on the camera. But you can almost tell. You're looking for that transition point. You might be able to see that. You're looking to add a chamfer to the primer pocket to allow an easier insertion of the primer. So if I put this case here, now these are brand new cases. They're going to prime pretty dang well in most cases regardless. But we can then inspect our priming. And looking good. Thanks, Tom. You got some stuff to take care of. Take care of your own stuff. Let me handle this. So when we're setting our swage, step one, we want to set our hold down. Now this is the Lyman Pro hold down. It has a little bit of compliance built in. Compliance meaning allows it to be flexible from headstand to headstamp. We have some polyurethane I'm probably not describing that material correctly, but it's a piece of hardened rubber in there to act as a stop, act as a cushion during swaging. Step one is to set your hold down. We also have FW arms hold downs. It's those tan dies right there on that machine and on the other machine. Let's see, can I zoom? I can zoom, yay. Don't have to move the tripod. FW arms, great company. They make some badass dies. We load them, we use them with our rifle sets, and they just do great. Oh, let me unzoom here. There we go. So we're going to set our swage rod, sorry, our hold down die. We're going to set this first per the instructions with either Lyman or FW. The whole point of the hold down is to prevent upward travel. We're not using this to apply downward pressure as much as we are just as a stop point, as a, hey, don't go up. All right, we want this swage rod to be doing all the work. We want the swage rod to have a stiff, a rigidly held case as that swage rod comes up to flare the case. So we set this, we go to the bottom of the stroke, and we run this down until it makes contact, plus a quarter turn. With this die, with FW arms dies, it may be a different setup depending on which one you have. So we've already set that setting, and then we're going to run the swage rod up until it bottoms out. So the way I like to explain it best is there's 3 levels of resistance. There's no resistance, just spinning it by fingertip, that's absolutely fine. And then we meet resistance of the tip engaging with the primer pocket. That's level 1 of resistance. So we went from 0 to 1. And I'm going to wait until that hits that wall. That's a sign that the shoulder has engaged with the base of the case and shouldn't have to go very much further. And that should get us our swage. One of my favorite sayings when it comes to swaging is proof is in the pudding. If you are swaging, if you're not swaging and you're having primer insertion difficulties, try swaging. See if it assists. With the wide variety of components we're seeing come out and with varying levels of QA and QC, you're not going to hurt the brass by swaging. You're really not. You're just not going to do it. But you may account for a variable in the brass that otherwise would cause you priming issues. So I hope that helps. Basically, set the hold down die correctly. This is a better look at the FW arms dies we have on this machine. Set your hold down correctly and then run your swage rod up to achieve what you want. But understanding what your goal is step 1. Yes, level 1 resistance, you have to move the rod higher. Actually, let me reset this and I'll see if I can't get a good shot for the camera of what I'm talking about, of what it looks like. Let me freehand this bad boy. So if we look here, I'm going to pull that case spring out the way. Oh, come on, you. There we go. So if we look, we can see the base of that swage rod is engaged with the base of the case. We are all the way up in the primer pocket, applying force with the shoulder of the swage rod to the primer pocket. All right. What else can I show you in our wonderful showroom here? I know what I can show you. So we've made some small changes in software recently. We have a video showing how to perform software update if you want to. But this is software version 217. It is a free update available for everyone that has one of our automated pieces of machinery. If you have a manual machine and you want a software firmware update, go read a book. So that should update your mental software just a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be an effective change, but so this screen is going to look pretty similar. We did get rid of clear shell plate on the. I think I can't remember if we got rid of it on the 1050s as well, but we got rid of it on the Revolution, Evolution, and Apex 10 software firmware because it was a redundant feature. And then on setup, we did add bottom slowdown and idle timeout. So a little safety feature. Real quick, idle timeout pops up if you haven't hit any selections or ran the press in so many seconds to make it so, well, you can't randomly start the machine. It is a safety feature. Yep. The update is available for any tablet as long as it has been updated past version 1.14, Ms. Bishop. So a white tablet, black tablet, doesn't really matter. You can apply this update. So with that button up, or if I hit run and end cycle, I get the end cycle activated alert. And now, I can have my hand on the machine all I want. I can do everything here. And with that screen up, 2 button presses are required of OK and then run, end cycle, stop, before the machine will move under its own power again. I do want to say that a unpowered machine without a tool head spring, gravity, if it is very well aligned, then gravity can eventually sag the tool head. So long story short, keep your hands clear of the machine when you don't need to be. So for safety's sake. But on the other thing we did was start die setup. So now I can move to bottom and move to top, move to bottom while I'm setting dies. So I no longer have to move to bottom, end cycle, and do weirdness there. I can just move to bottom, move to top when I'm doing die setup, changing calibers, what have you. And then when I'm done, I can hit finish die setup. If I can hit the button, that'd be great. And it pops back up. Other than that, what can I show you guys here? What's new? What is new? Oh, here we go. We have a fully set up Apex 10. This is probably more what most of you are familiar with our Primer Express. I don't know if this one is good to load right now. I don't know what the settings are on it to load, so I don't want to hit run on it with cases anyhow. But this is operates just like the Revolution. Still 10-station tool head. Primer Express is compatible. And yeah. What was I going to show? Oh, I know what I could show you. I could show a broken down digital powder measure because that was discussed a little bit ago. Here's our servo motor. And where did I put that thing? I am so organized, I know, guys. Oh, there's a snake that would have bit me, as my grandpapa used to say. So we have the major components here of the actual inner workings of our digital powder measure. Walk through the Genesis. I can show you a picture of the Genesis and we can talk through it if you guys want to do that. I don't physically have one here. We're still in the development stage on that. It was asked about ship date on the Genesis, and I can tell you firmly that I don't know. We are focusing on developing it and getting it to be rock solid before it hits the shelves. I'm confident it'll ship here fairly soon. I think we're quoting fall right now. We'd have to push that release date to the right just a little bit. People who have pre-ordered obviously will be first to get them when they start shipping. But other than that, I'm in the dark as much as you are on ship dates. I'm hoping soon. I'm on the list to have one eventually. I want one too. I'm excited for it, just like everybody else is. So, anyhow, talking about digital powder measure, this is an Gen 1 powder measure body. All we're really doing, and this applies to our Gen 2, our current mechanical powder measure right here, but we're adding a gear to the outside, so these extra screw holes are, threaded holes are on the side of the drum, to be able to put a belt and have it go to our servo. You get the semi-equal here, so that when commanded, the servo will rotate to actuate the powder measure. We use a micro switch for activation. When a case is present, it lifts the two halves, and releases powder. Hi from Europe. I own a Mark 7 drive for my 650. Any tips on how to minimize case jump on the powder die so I can get it running without the top slow down downstroke? Yeah, that's gonna apply. That's all gonna be in tightness of your linkage. Actually, let me finish talking about this and we can move on to that. Sorry, I am jumping around. But digital powder measure, that's what we're talking about. So for those of you who have one, what I like to tell people on the tech side, tech support side, is if it's doing weird things, if it's working but it's working not the way it should, it's usually a mechanical issue. It's usually a belt, maybe it's missing some teeth, or it is this drive shaft may have this pulley. It may be sticking too far out, or it may be slipping on the drive shaft. Our current ones have a better interface for this pulley on the drive shaft, but check the set screws, make sure they're tight, make sure this pulley is staying put on the drive shaft of the servo motor to get you rolling again. We do have videos, of course, on detailed breakdown and reassembly, but I hope that fills some people in. Jamet, person start with the name G, you're in Europe. We're going to talk about the 650, 750 real quick for you. Let's get in front here. So to fill people in, what he's referring to is at the top of the stroke. I'm pretty sure this is calibrated. Top of the stroke. As it goes up and engages in the expander die of the powder measure, he's getting sticking, so it pops on the downstroke after it releases from the die. The ways we can address that are obviously polishing that expander, making sure that it is as smooth as possible. If we are if we're wet tumbling brass, it's going to add to the issue. If they're really dry, you're drying it out, you're not having any film there. But making sure that's a smooth interface with the expander. Or there's a company called Shooting Sports Innovations that makes an alpha dropper, which is a black nitride coated expander that replaces the standard Mr. Bullet Feeder one. That may help reduce your issues as well. Long story short, you're trying to, one, minimize expansion. You want to expand as little as you can get away with. The more you expand, the more you have to crimp as well. So you're going to be working that brass more. That's not necessarily the end of the world, but it does make for more pop if you are expanding more than you need to. And the other aspect is we need to minimize friction as much as possible. The less friction we have, the easier it is to bell that case to make it accept a projectile. I hope that answers your question. If I'm not mistaken, you said in the other videos that automated Apex 10 users should remove the large guide rod spring at the left rear. Can you elaborate on that? So as you might notice, let's see, we got spring on that one. Spring on that one, that's manual. That is a Evolution commercial. That one doesn't even have a spring guide in the back. And then Apex 10 does have, even though it's automated, has a spring back there. Long story short, it's a safety recommendation. We want you to be safe with our machines. We don't want you to get injured. So we recommend leaving that spring in place because it holds the tool head up when the power's out, or if the power is lost, or if it's in neutral. If that spring is removed, gravity can take over, and that's not very comfortable. So that's the main reason we recommend to please leave the spring on. From a function point of view, there's not anything that's going to be damaged or what have you with that spring being removed. Like I said, it is a safety concern. Our recommendation as a manufacturer is to leave that spring installed as a safety concern on the Apex 10 when it's automated. So I hope that answers your question in a adequate way. Okie doke. Thank you, Mighty Armory. I'm glad you appreciate the time. I do enjoy doing these kinds of things. I do enjoy doing these types of AMAs because it's my opportunity to answer questions. Calling into tech support, or if you're thinking about one of these machines, it can be kind of daunting. They're not free. They do something much more quickly than people might be used to, a little more complicated than people are used to. So I want to assuage. I want to ease your concerns about these machines, and once you get used to them, the biggest thing is they're a time saver. I have a minor shoulder injury from back in the day, and not having to worry about pulling a handle anymore is a benefit by itself. However, the other aspect is I get some of my life back. I shoot about 1,000 rounds a week during the season for training for USPSA competition. So being able to get that knocked out in a half hour, 45 minutes that's huge. Or to do a one big run beginning of the month of a few thousand rounds to hold me over for the week, for the month of training. It makes a difference. Okay, so if you are in that kind of volume, or if you're in the commercial aspect, with our Revolutions are in a lot of commercial shops, you would be surprised what ammunition is on the shelf that was loaded on one of our machines. I mean that. I was surprised when I found out how many commercial operations use our machines. So like I said, not trying to make this too much of a sales AMA, but we've gotten there about 15 minutes, we'll say, of talking here. If y'all still have questions, I'd be happy to keep on that. I hope to make this a little bit more common occurrence as we collect questions from Reddit, from Facebook, or Instagram of what kind of things y'all want us to answer to help you out, to let you know what we got. I'm trying to think what else. Look, I can show you our 14-inch case feeder. That's what I can show you. Let me get one off the pole here. There we go. Got some 375 Bishop short mag demonstrations coming up. Cool, let us know. Always great to see new calibers coming to the market. Okay, switch you around here. All right, this is a rifle case feeder. This is a 14-inch case feeder made by MA Systems. We help them with this, and well, this is our mainstay on the Revolution, and also available for other machines if you want to beef up your case feeding. So these are laser cut, laser cut or CNC aluminum plates here for the actual caliber: small pistol, small rifle, large pistol, large rifle, and 300 blackout. I can't remember if it was a 6.5 particular one as well. But these case feeders are the bee's knees, parts that get changed out for a caliber conversion. Obviously the plate, you'll have to adjust the springs up here on the perches. These springs help kick cases that are not oriented correctly, kick them off, or help them get oriented correctly. You have a platen back here, this black thing you can see through the slats. That has a ridge in it for rifle cases to help kick them up and get them to be nose in the slot here. Let me see if I have a, oh, there's one. So the correct orientation for a 223 is like that, so it feeds butt first when it gets over to the offload. And if it is nose up, as long as it's like that, it's fine, because it'll still drop butt first as it goes over the offload. But what we don't want, and if it's like this, it'll just pass over and not drop down because all the weight is in the rear end. But for pistol, it's your standard collator plate. I can get you up here to look at this one. And man, this thing will keep up at north of 3,000 rounds per hour with Revolution. And I can count on one hand the jams and things I've had to deal with on mine for the last 4 years. Do I think the DAA case feeder plate is an added value? So that is available for our 11-inch high-speed case feeder. And you can see the plate that it comes with, small pistol. We really like this thing. Okay, this thing has been a humongous upgrade to our product line. We have to take our bayonet fitting off here. Let me show you. I'm going to freehand it again. Reverse button, rheostat control, proximity sensor instead of a micro switch. But the DAA plate directly replaces, you can get one with the clutch that replaces for the 11-inch case feeder. And from everyone I've talked to, they love it. All right, it's for pistol only, and it replaces the plate for 9 or 40 for this, or 38 Super Comp. And everyone I've talked to really likes theirs. Make sure to order the one with the clutch plate for our case feeder. Oh, that one doesn't even have a plate in it. And you should be good to go. I don't have any personal experience with that case feeder plate, but I've yet to hear of anyone, not getting use out of it. But other than that, I think we showed some great things. Shoot us an email, support@markvi-loading.com if you have some technical questions you want to answer directly. Obviously, you can shoot us a message on Facebook or Instagram as well. My name's John Vlieger. I've been here for the last hour helping you guys out, answering some questions. Yes, it's kind of show-offy, but this is what I do. I love making videos, show people how to use our equipment better and get more value out of it, especially, and make better ammo. At Western PA Championship this past weekend, which is a sectional regional championship, state championship in Western Pennsylvania. My extreme spread for my 3 rounds that they chronographed was 5 feet per second. That's with new brass, new shell shock cases. But that just goes to show what you can get. You can get really consistent ammunition out of these machines, and there is a learning curve. But man, it's worth it once you get that learning curve out the way and you're cranking out ammo for plinking, competition, or other uses. So that being said, thanks guys for joining us. Thanks for the thanks. I've been working on the mustache. Other than that, if you have anything we can do for you guys, let us know. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And if I don't see you on the range, happy loading. Take care from everyone here at Mark 7, guys.